FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
So what to do? I'll finish by just making a few quick points. What should the U.S. do, and what, I mean, I've just pointed out the negative things. There aren't many positive things to point out, in my view, in terms of U.S. policy, other than the fact that the vast majority of people in the Arab Islamic Middle East still respect the United States values, people, traditions, systems. They want to be friends with the U.S. They want the U.S. to be engaged politically, but in a more even-handed way. So there's a tremendous foundation of goodwill that can be activated. And on that basis, I would say what the U.S. should do and what the next administration should explore is, first of all, to engage the legitimate actors, engage all legitimate actors in the region. And the legitimacy, I think, needs to be defined by two things. Legitimacy is defined by local validity of the actors themselves. If somebody in some country is locally elected and clearly represents a large number of those people, they have legitimacy. The second aspect of legitimacy is respect for international norms and standards, so that if you don't do terrorism, you don't do violence, you don't do genocide, you respect international norms, you should be engaged. And if there are actors who do both, like, for instance, the Irish Republican Army, let's take an example, the United States engaged them in a political process that heightened their local legitimacy and reduced their disrespect for international norms and terror. And that's exactly what the United States should do in the region: embrace the legitimate local actors, and if they do terrorism or other things, then deal with them in a manner. And that includes embracing the Israeli government according to exactly the same standards. If Israel goes against international norms and human rights and UN resolutions, the U.S. should do exactly the same thing with Israel as it does with Hezbollah and Hamas and others. Second thing is seek peace, security, and prosperity for all the people of the region at a same level, and not be selective in where it pushes for democracy or peacemaking or elections. The third thing is to be consistent, which is part of this process. The lack of consistency and the perception of U.S. double standards is the major, most pervasive complaint that people have against the U.S. It's the lack of consistency. Number four, use multilateralism more. The United States cannot just come to the region and suddenly decide that we've got to get the neighbors involved to solve Iraq, when the United States has done nothing and ignored all the neighbors who've been telling the U.S. for the last 40 years, do something about the Arab-Israeli conflict. You can't just selectively be multilateral. You need to do it as a basic value. Number five is, I think the U.S. should appeal to the majority of people, the majority of moderate, normal, decent citizens in the Arab-Islamic Middle East, and not let itself be in the ridiculous situation of predominantly responding to this small cult-like terrorist group, Qaeda, and others like it. The United States has allowed its foreign policy to be driven heavily by this small minority of violent people, rather than responding and engaging that large majority of people in the region who want to deal with it and share its values. Number six, the U.S. needs to define its national interests according to American national interests. It cannot let pro-Israeli groups, pro-arms groups, pro-oil groups, pro-conservative Arab monarchy groups, it cannot let these special interest frenzied lobbies drive and define the national interest. If the United States is unable to engage in an open, honest public debate about the influence of various lobby groups in Washington, then it should get out of the business of trying to spread democracy if it cannot itself act in a democratic way according to its own national interest. And number seven, the U.S., I think, should engage with others, but take the lead in an active, even-handed peacemaking process in the Arab-Israeli conflict. This remains the single biggest radicalizing force, destabilizing force in the region. There are other problems in the region, of course, but resolving the Arab-Israeli conflict, which I think is resolvable, resolving it is the single biggest contribution the U.S. could make to then diffusing some of these other tensions and making some of these other things easier.